All right, let's get right into it. We are living in a world completely saturated with artificial intelligence, right? It's our co-pilot, it's our research assistant, it's even our creative partner. But as these tools get smarter and smarter, you gotta ask the question, are they making us dumber?
I mean, just think about your day to day. We get instant answers, perfectly worded emails, solutions to complex problems, all in the blink of an eye. And yeah, it is incredibly convenient. But you know what they say about a muscle you stop using, right? It atrophies. That is the real dilemma we're digging into today, the potential hidden cost of all this AI convenience.
So, first up, let's talk about what's going on inside our own heads. This isn't some sci-fi story about robots taking over. Nah, this is about what we are willingly, consciously handing over. It's the inside problem, that quiet, cognitive shift that's happening every time we let AI do our mental heavy lifting. And there's a name for this, a scientific term, cognitive offloading. Look, it's something we've always done. You write a shopping list instead of memorizing it, you pull out a calculator for math. But with AI, it's different. We're offloading much more complex stuff now, like reasoning, analyzing, even creating. Now, don't get me wrong, offloading isn't inherently bad. It can free up some mental RAM for bigger, more creative ideas. But here's the danger, and the research is starting to back this up. When we over-rely on it, we just stop engaging in that deep, reflective thinking. We're not practicing the skills of analysis and evaluation, and just like that muscle, those skills can start to fade away.
So, here's a number that should really make you pause. A 2025 study by Michael Gerlich found a strong negative correlation, negative 0.75, between cognitive offloading and critical thinking skills. Now, if you're not a stats person, let me translate. That's a huge deal. It basically means the more people handed their thinking over to AI, the worse their critical thinking scores got. It's a direct, measurable link.
And that same study breaks it down even further. It showed that younger folks, those between 17 and 25, who relied way more on AI tools, they consistently scored lower on critical thinking tests compared to older groups. What's really interesting, though, is that having a higher level of education seemed to act as a sort of buffer, which suggests that maybe, just maybe, having those foundational thinking skills helps protect against the worst of it. Okay, so that's the inside problem. But it's not happening in a vacuum. Now let's look at the outside problem. What's happening to our collective information space, the internet itself? And a new kind of perfect term has popped up to describe it. Slop. I absolutely love this quote from a Reddit user because it's the perfect analogy. You know when you make a copy of a picture and then you copy that copy and each time it gets a little fuzzier, a little more distorted? Well, that's exactly what's happening to information online. It is literally degrading. So, to be clear, AI slop is this endless tsunami of low-quality, AI-generated content that's flooding the internet. We're talking about articles, images, and social media posts made with zero human oversight. They're just there to fill space, to game algorithms, to get clicks, not to actually inform or inspire anyone. It's quantity over quality on a scale we've never seen before. And the technical reason for all this slop? It's fascinating, and it's called model collapse. This is the scary part. This is what happens when AI models start training on the slop created by other AIs. So they're no longer learning from pure human data. They're learning from that fuzzy, distorted photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. And this collapse happens in stages. First, the models forget all the weird, quirky, outlier data that makes reality so rich and interesting. Then, their outputs just become generic and repetitive. After that, any biases that were already in the data get amplified, like they're on steroids. And eventually, they can start spitting out stuff that's completely nonsensical because they've totally lost their connection to the real world. And this is where the inside problem and the outside problem collide. They aren't two separate issues. No, they feed on each other, creating this really dangerous feedback loop, a cognitive vicious cycle. Let's walk through this because it escalates fast. Okay, so step one. The internet gets absolutely flooded with all this low-quality, unreliable AI content, which means that now more than ever before, we need really sharp critical thinking skills just to figure out what's real and what's total garbage. But, and here's the cruel twist, that cognitive offloading we talked about is eroding the exact skills we need to navigate this polluted digital world. Which leads us to the final, terrifying step. The weaker our own judgment becomes, the more we turn to AI to help us make sense of it all. And the cycle just keeps spinning, pulling us deeper and deeper each time. So this whole situation leaves us at a crossroads, really, a choice between two very different futures for our own skills. On one path, you've got de-skilling. That's where AI basically makes our expertise obsolete and our jobs are reduced to just pushing buttons. But on the other path, you have upskilling, where we use AI as a powerful tool to augment our abilities and push ourselves to develop new, even more advanced skills.
So, how do we make sure we end up on that upskilling path? Well, it's not about throwing AI out the window. I mean, that ship has sailed. It's about developing a completely new kind of literacy, learning how to think critically with and about these incredibly powerful new tools.
A huge part of this new literacy is just learning how to spot the slop. AI writing has its own tells, its own fingerprints. It absolutely loves puffy, important-sounding phrases like serves as a testament to. It almost always ends with this predictable summary of challenges and future prospects. And it's a master of vague claims like observers have cited, but it never tells you who those observers are.
Just look at this comparison. On the left, you've got that classic AI corporate speak that's been trained on millions of LinkedIn posts. Leverage innovative solutions. And on the right, you have what an actual human would say. Use better tools. The goal is to train ourselves and our AIs to cut through the fluff and just communicate with clarity and a bit of authenticity. Look, at the end of the day, this isn't a battle against technology. It's a challenge to ourselves. The future is going to require us to be better thinkers, better editors, better curators of information. We need to start treating AI like a really powerful but seriously flawed intern, one that needs constant guidance, fact-checking, and a strong human hand on the wheel to be truly useful. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We're getting incredibly good at using AI to find answers. But the most human and, frankly, the most valuable skill has always been knowing which questions are worth asking in the first place. So as we race for instant answers, are we accidentally losing the art of curiosity? Now that is a question no AI can answer for us.